Welcome. I'd like to take a moment to talk with everyone about the merch store. The merch store helps to pay staff and the artists. I'd greatly appreciate it if you would come check it out. There's also some really cool merchandise that you might like, and it supports the writers. When somebody sees the name of the book on merchandise, they're going to check out the book, and then they're going to check out the writer's work. And so the writers' names will spread more and more, and maybe they'll get more fans. And that's kind of my hope for this merchandise, that it gets out there and helps. So anyway, without further ado, I'd like to take a look real quick before we get started with today's special guest. So as you can see, I got a Redbubble page, and on that Redbubble page, there's going to be a link in the description. You can see different variations of Book of 42 Squared. So that's the impact title part. The full title of the book is, of course, 42 Stories Anthology Presents, Book of 42 Squared. To get the full thing of that, you can go to this logo, which has the whole thing on there. It's harder to see because of the camera, but if you go to the site, you can kind of close up to it. This says Book of 42 Squared, and here it says 42 Stories Anthology Presents. So you get all of it with this design. And what I recommend doing with each of the designs that are available on Redbubble is that you go view this design on the products available, and so that you can see all of them. You can see that there's like a mouse pad, hats. What else? There's a pet blanket that's really cute, and also, yeah, these are cute as well. What I like is the hat here. I think it came out really well. The shirts are neat too. And what else is kind of neat? There's a lot of stuff. There's a laptop sleeve. Somewhere in here there's tapestry. Now, what I read up about the tapestry that Redbubble sells is that it's kind of like a towel. So that would be your towel, 42, and look up the whole towel connection. You'll see from Hitchhiker's Guide, there's this whole thing about not forgetting your towel. And now you can have one from the 42 Stories Anthology book. There's cup holsters, blanket, bags, and the mugs are pretty cool. There's also a tall version right here. There's a lot to see on this site, and I hope that you'll come and check them out, check out all the designs. I'm going to continue adding more, I'll make announcements about that. Okay, without further ado, let's get to our special guest. Welcome, Travis.
Hello,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing very well as well. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet you. Right in front of you is well, it's a draft of the cover. It's going to be a little different when the book comes out.
Mhm.
But what's your first impression?
I think it's really cool. I mean, it's like what I'm seeing is a bunch of 42s, so I'm guessing 42 pictures of 42,
Hmm,
which I think is really on theme. It's really cool. It's unique.
yeah. Yeah, the artist had collected 42 images throughout the years. And then when she read this anthology, she goes, I have to be a part of this anthology. And
So
her,
she already had all these pictures of 42.
yeah, and then this
That's really
book came
crazy.
out, and she goes, "I have to do this. I have to have the cover."
Sure,
And
sure.
and through votes, she got it. But I wanted to
That's
make it fair, so I let people vote on it. And she barely won by just a few votes.
Hey, but good for her. I mean, you got a cool cover in the end, and it's super cool that these are all like they're not like photos from the internet or like AI photos, but actual photos someone took.
Yeah,
That's
a
super
lot of
cool.
them in China.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but this is about you though, not the cover. So I want to
Yes.
present you. You're one of the award winners. You were actually a part of the surprise awards. Announced What we did was we announced there's going to be a Story of Excellence award, but I didn't tell anyone there's also a runner-up award, and
Hmm.
one of those, which was just kind of an extra prize I wanted to give out. There was 42 of that, not 42, but 41 of them,
Hmm.
because the last chapter is the craft of writing, so there isn't
Right.
one. But
Sure, sure.
with the 42 awards, that was Story of Excellence, but they only had 41 awards for this one. So I think you're more fortunate than the other ones.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I was quite excited. I didn't I mean, I was very happy with the story and then to have it recognized. I was pretty excited when I got that email.
Why don't you let the viewers know your bio?
Sure.
Any
So
way
my
you want to
name's
tell it?
Will do. My name's Travis Garner. I'm originally from Canada, but I've traveled around the world. I've lived in Asia, in Vietnam, and in China. I'm currently living in Germany. I like to do writing, and when I'm not writing, I do a lot of physical activity, a lot of rock climbing, some yoga, some other working out. I've had a bunch of different short stories published in different like small magazines or like online areas, things like that. Um, yeah, that's me.
Hmm. You mentioned climbing, and if you ever want to make it back to Japan in 2 years, I'm planning a Mount Fuji climb. It's not
Ooh,
really a
that
climb,
sounds
though, it's
super
more of a
cool.
hike. You're welcome to join.
We'll see. Japan's still on the list. I've never made it to Japan, so yeah, actually, I might be into that.
Yeah, because I'm trying to convince my fiance to go, but she's already done
Hmm.
it and she doesn't want to. So I go, okay, I'll ask other people. So you're the
Sure,
first
yeah.
I asked.
I mean, it's an exciting proposition. I think you'll be have an easy time roping some people in.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're down, I'll let you know the date.
Okay,
Um,
sounds good. Yeah,
uh,
totally.
I think you mentioned Germany, right?
Yes. So where am I currently located exactly? I'm in Berlin. I've been living here for the past 6 years now. Wow, a long time. I moved here without plans of staying long, but life happens, pandemics happen, and somehow you end up living somewhere
It's not a bad place to live. I went there and had a great New Year's Eve in 2017.
with the
And
sky exploding everywhere.
yeah, every step.
Yeah. Yeah, they
They have a,
really set off fireworks here.
yeah, I've never seen a New Year's Eve like that.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah. Yeah,
It's just the
super
cleanup
unique.
afterward, right?
It must be very frustrating for the city workers who have to do that. But
Yeah, you're
yeah, it's a good
fortunate
party.
you have the city workers. In
Hmm.
Japan, it's all volunteer.
Ah,
So you see
really?
people cleaning here, it's people who just care and they want good luck.
Yeah, but that's almost I feel like you might be a bit more responsible. People here are very irresponsible on party days, and the next day it's just broken glass everywhere. And I think if they were more responsible, maybe they would care a little bit more and not trash it so much.
Well, here they kind of believe in a lot of gods. Like there's a
Right,
toilet god, so there would be an owner of a building who might be cleaning a toilet in a public area, and you don't
right.
even know that this guy owns the company across the street, but he's doing it
Okay.
because they think they'll get more wealth by doing kind things
Sure,
and cleaning
sure.
things like a toilet, and then the toilet god will bless them with luck, and they really believe this. So maybe
Sure, I
they,
believe it. Yeah.
yeah, we just
Yeah.
need a toilet god in Germany and America.
Yeah, sure. And one in my house would be helpful.
Yeah, and one that'll clean it, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Now, speaking of your house, where's your writing space?
Right. So I usually write in my bedroom, which I know I have a blurred background on, but it's just in my flat in the middle of Berlin. I've got a desk here. It's where I both work my day job when I'm working from home, and then also usually in the evenings if I'm writing, it's where I'll do my writing. Yeah.
Okay. So, as mentioned, you're one of the award winners for the anthology. Why don't you give your story a read for viewers?
Sure, absolutely. So, uh, I realized that I didn't copy the title for my story, and I'm blanking on what the exact title is. I think it's something along the lines of Tales My Mommy Told Me About My Daddy, something like that.
Yeah.
It's 42 characters. And then here's the story. So, Mommy always told me stories about my daddy. People thought he was creepy, but he was an expert web designer. Also, he wasn't a great dancer. Too many left feet. I never met him. After they made me, my mom ate him.
Yeah, readers are gonna have to pay close attention to that one. The judges
Hmm.
really appreciated your perception of parents, and they go,
Oh,
"Yeah, I
thank
guess
you.
they're parents too." It was, but it was the judges. I thought your story was great too. I didn't really catch it until somebody mentioned it while reviewing it, and because I was reading
Ah,
so many stories,
sure.
it
I
was
feel
great.
it. Yeah. If it's just the first one you hear, I think it's pretty easy to hear. But if you've been reading, what, 100 a day or something, your brain maybe kind of glazes over it.
Yeah, so I think in the case of your story, where you'll probably get readers who get it, and that's the great part
Hmm.
about it. And the judges
Hmm.
definitely get it. That's why they picked it for here.
Yeah, which is fantastic. Yeah, I don't really, it's been so long since I wrote it. I don't remember how it came to me. I remember seeing the prompt for your this anthology,
Oh,
and I remember thinking like that's like the length of a tweet. And so I was like looking at funny tweets, and a lot of funny tweets had this kind of twist at the end where you think they're talking about one thing, and then they get to the end and oh no, they were actually talking about something else. And so I wanted to write something like that. And somehow from there I wrote it without choosing a topic, so I didn't actually know there was going to be parents. But I remember thinking like, okay, what if it's like about spiders, but you don't know that, and you get to the end and you realize that it's talking about spiders. And so I wrote it. I was very happy with it, and then I kind of looked, okay, where does this fit? And it fit very nicely with parents, I thought.
yeah, it totally fit well. definitely fit in there. And thanks for writing it. I'm glad that you shared it with us. Who's your target audience, aside from, I guess, this story? Who would your normal target audience be when you write?
Yeah, I mean, this story is for anyone who enjoys a good laugh, I think. But normally, my target audience is going to be people who are close to me, so close friends of mine, my siblings, people like that. Basically, I want to write stories that people I know will enjoy. Like, it's also nice when people I don't know enjoy them, people I haven't met. But I really like that gratification of me showing it to someone I know and then be like, oh, I really enjoyed that. You know, that was a really cool story that had a really cool twist, or I really engaged with the character. So yeah, generally just people I'm close to.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to get my fiance to be that person nearby like you do, where
Sure,
because I want her to be my main reader, but she's so
sure.
busy too. She's like a busy nurse. Well,
I had
caregiver,
like the
a nurse.
opposite problem where my friends or people who are close to me want to read my stories, but I'm too protective, and I'm like, no, it's not ready. You can't read it yet.
Oh, okay. Well, let's get to questions about your writing then. What
Mhm.
got you into writing?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I just remember reading and being so blown away by the kind of world that you can be in a story. So, like, I think the classic example for my generation is Harry Potter. You're just in this complete other world and you can't put the book down and you're reading and just turning pages, and every page is exciting. And you get to the end and there's this huge twist and you never saw it coming. And I enjoyed that experience so much that I just wanted to be able to do the same thing and give that experience to other people. And I wanted to create my own worlds. I thought that was so interesting. I thought it was so fun to be in these other worlds. And so, yeah, I mean, I just started pursuing writing because, I mean, that that's where I'd experienced it, you know, is in books and creating worlds. It never occurred to me that I could also do the same thing, for example, in like video games or movies. I never thought about careers or like passions like that. I just thought about writing books because I just had so many wonderful book experiences as a child.
Yeah, Terry Goodkind also has that ability,
Yes.
the fire and ice.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely transports you.
Also Fire and Ice, which is
Yeah, George
George
R.
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 Martin. I
Martin.
didn't read those till I was, in university, but at the same time, yeah, you're absolutely transported. It was the same with like reading The Hobbit as a kid or like countless books, you know?
Yeah, it's good to have more writers wanting to do that because so many these days just want to put something on Amazon and they don't think of the actual story and the detail that
Hmm.
they're working on. They're like,
Hmm.
do it, put it out. But when you work on something like you're saying, you end up with something worth telling, I think.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's super important is like caring for your reader's time. You know, it's a time investment to read a story. And I get that not every story is for everyone, but I feel like anything you're putting out for other people to read should at least be like to a state where it's worth their time, where it's an investment where they're going to get a lot out of it, like this much bigger world that they can get into.
Hmm, absolutely. So with that said, we've been talking a lot about writers, and yet I show a picture of a judge. But that's just
It's all good.
what I get for using AI generated images
Mm.
and asking about writers. But what are some writers that you'd like to meet, living or dead?
Sure. Actually, this relates a lot to the last question. There's a writer named Brandon Sanderson. He's one of the biggest writers in fantasy currently.
Hmm.
He writes these massive, massive, thick, fat, epic fantasy books. And he's got like 3 or 4 different series that are all linked together. So they're separate series, but they take place in the same universe. He does a really good job with his world building and making this immersive world that you can just get into. And it's so easily accessible for like anyone, I think, who's interested in the genre. It's not like with a high learning curve or anything like that. But also, he's just a really great person when it comes to, I mean, I did actually meet him once in person at a conference for a minute, but I don't really know him. But he has a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of podcasts about the craft of writing. And he's a very good teacher of writing. He explains it very well. And he seems very passionate about teaching it. And I think I think it would just be very interesting to sit down with him, have an hour-long conversation, have dinner or something like that. He's just a very interesting guy, in my opinion.
Oh. Well, I think it was during research that I realized how approachable some people are.
Mm,
And if you just emailed him something like what his work has done for you, he'd probably really appreciate it. But
that's actually a
you
good
know, I've
idea.
never thought about it. Don't fear emailing people. Like, I
Sure.
realized that through research though, because I email researchers questions about their work.
Right.
But
Right.
during the
Right.
anthology, I also had to email a lot of judges, like the judges say, who are writers and more
Mm.
popular than the average writer, I guess. I don't know. Just it was kind of like what awards have they won and this and that. And I emailed people like Stephen King, and I
Oh,
got
wow.
I talked to his assistant, but
Hmm.
his assistant wasn't into even talking. But some people were more, well,
Sure,
if it would have been directly
sure.
Stephen King, probably would have been more willing to talk. But an assistant,
Almost certainly, but I imagine almost he's so popular that it's almost impossible for him to respond to
yeah,
anyone because he probably gets so many
yeah.
responses
And
and emails.
usually he's just writing in a room, blasting rock and
Sure.
roll music. Like that's his life.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, sure. Yeah, I read his book on writing, which is one of the
Hmm,
best writing learning books I've ever read, and that's
great.
how he describes it.
Hmm,
Every day he writes and he just blasts rock and roll while he does it.
hmm. Yeah, I also hope somebody reminds him one day that he has in that book that if anyone ever has a question for him, there is his email.
Yep, I remember seeing that. And then you go to his website and there's an FAQ and it's like, "Oh, we can't respond to everyone. We're getting too many answers."
That's what he gets for putting his
Yeah.
email in there. But on editing, you mentioned that a little bit.
Mm.
How do you do it?
So I'm quite protective of my work in that I don't want other people to read it before it's ready because, it's like a personal thing and I don't want them to be like, "Oh, Travis, he's not a good writer." So I generally keep it with me for several drafts. I will do three, four, five drafts on my own until I really feel that it's good, before I show it to someone else. But I always want to get someone else's feedback because I mean, I am one brain. I have one way of looking at the world, and there are so many things that I'm going to miss that I'm not even going to think about. The number of times that I've given someone even like a short story, like the one for this anthology, or like a one or a two pager, like a short story, thinking that like, yeah, this is perfect, they're going to enjoy it, and they come back with some feedback like, oh, why did this character do this? Or like, if you look at it through this lens, the character comes off as creepy or something like that. You can get just feedback that I wouldn't consider, especially being so deep in the story. So yeah, I'll usually keep it for several rounds with myself, but I always do get someone else's feedback that I trust, for like, I don't know, the third or fourth or fifth round, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You never know what someone's going to say. Like, I
Hmm.
gave a book to someone once to read. She's been published a bunch, and
Okay.
she said, I wonder why you didn't let this main character of yours die." And I go, "What?" She's
Because
like,
you were
"Yeah,
attached by that point, but
yeah,
the story maybe wanted them to die, or
yeah." Oh,
yeah.
I think she just didn't like the character.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. Then that's a bit more subjective.
Yeah, but I didn't kill the
Uh,
character. But sometimes I think about it. Maybe I should have. I don't
mm,
know.
yeah.
We'll find out.
Well,
Yeah. But you never know what someone's going to say, and that's why it's good to get it out there with someone who has a different view than you, because you never know what they'll say.
mm,
And some of the
totally.
advice I took what that person said. You never know.
Totally. Yeah, I almost always take it. You have to learn when to ignore and when to take the advice,
Hmm.
but like I've almost never given a story out and not taken at least some of the advice.
Yeah.
There's always something that's useful.
Hmm. Same. What's your outlining process like?
So I'm kind of like all over the place and I do it as inefficiently as possible. As you work on a story, it grows, it goes in directions you didn't think it would. Plot lines come up that you hadn't considered. Characters who weren't important suddenly become important. And I find it really difficult to plan that in advance. I've tried to do it before where I outline every detail of a story and I know where I'm going, because I find it quite difficult to go without a roadmap. I get lost in the weeds. But when I try to outline the whole story, I either one will lose interest before I start because I spent so long in the outline, or two, I will just keep making changes to the outline as I go, which I think is a natural part of writing a story and story progression. So what I do now is I usually do like a points on the road. I will outline what are the big points that I want to hit. Sorry, I should say points on a road map, not on a road, but points on a map. What are the major points I want to hit? And then I kind of just start writing without, aiming towards these points without too much of a guideline, in as it can be as poor as it needs to be. Like things will not make sense. Characters' motivations will change. Characters' names will change. Events, people will be like, remember that event that happened that never happened, just because it needs to have happened for them to be where they're at. And it's a very messy first draft as I get through and try and meet all these points.
Hmm.
But once I've done the first draft, I've been in the story enough and I've thought about it enough that I can then actually sit down, take all of my thoughts and collect them and write a proper outline, knowing exactly what beats need to be hit, who the characters need to be to hit these beats, these kind of things. So it's quite messy. It's not at all a streamlined process. It takes quite a long time, but it's just the way that my brain works, I guess.
Hmm. And they sound a lot like what do they say? Threads.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you put thread through a story to take the reader, and it sounds like you're laying out these threads to outline. That's
I definitely I would
interesting.
say that. Yeah. I just have to then figure out how to follow them, I guess.
Yeah, it's not always easy.
No.
Why don't you tell the viewers how to find you on social media?
Sure. The main place where you can find me, I have a website which is currently offline but should be back online soon, which is just my name, travisgarner.ca, CA for Canada. Otherwise, the main place I'm online is on Instagram. It's traveling travesty, so traveling with two L's and travesty, which is my name with TY on the end, but it's kind of a pun on me being very chaotic and destructive. So at traveling travesty, that's usually where I'm hanging out on Instagram.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I already follow you on there, and
Okay.
I found traveling travels travesty to be funny.
Good. Good. I'm glad to hear it.
You
Yeah.
placed it to your story too, because in your story you also kind of used a pun, and
That's
then
true. Yeah.
in
I'm
your
quite punny.
Instagram name you use kind of a pun.
Yeah. I mean, that was more when I was focused on a lot more of traveling with my life and less writing. If I did it today, I might do it differently. But at the time, it made sense and I liked it. And yeah, I really like the puns. So
Yeah, well, traveling is definitely gonna get some creativity from you, so keep it up.
totally. Yeah. Oh, I do. I do.
And here's thank you in a bunch of languages. Thank you, and also thanks Free Picks for the AI generated images. And yeah, thanks for your time,
Totally. Yeah.
Travis.
And thank you for your time. I really appreciated this.